It was past midnight when the shouting started again. I sat on the edge of my bed, my phone clutched tightly in my hand, praying it wouldn't escalate this time. My 8-year-old brother Lucas was asleep in the corner, his small body curled under a thin blanket, oblivious to the storm raging downstairs. But then, I heard the crash glass shattering against the wall, followed by my dad's heavy boots pounding up the staircase. The door slammed open. "There you are," he barked, his breath thick with whiskey. His face was flushed red, eyes bloodshot and wild. I stood up slowly, my back pressing against the cold wall. "I didn't do anything," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video." "You never do," he sneered, stepping closer. "That's the problem, isn't it? Always useless. Always taking. You're just—" He jabbed a finger into my chest, his voice rising. "Dead weight." "Dad, please," I started, but I didn't get to finish. His fist connected with my ribs so hard the air exploded out of my lungs. I stumbled, choking on my breath, clutching my side as pain shot through me like fire. I could barely inhale before his hand came down again, grabbing my arm and yanking me forward. "You think you can sit here while everyone else works for this family?" he shouted, spit flying from his lips. "You think you get to eat under my roof and give nothing back?" I tried to back away, but there was nowhere to go. Another blow landed, lower this time, right against the edge of my ribcage. Something inside cracked. I felt it before I even heard it, and my knees buckled beneath me. "Stop!" I gasped out, clutching my ribs with both hands. "Please, stop!" Behind him, Mom appeared in the doorway, her silk robe tied loosely, her hair perfect like she'd just stepped out of a magazine. She leaned casually against the frame, sipping from her wine glass. Her lips curled into a smile. "You deserve this," she said smoothly, swirling the wine in her glass. "You've been nothing but a burden since the day you were born." I stared at her, tears streaming down my face, blood pooling warm at the corner of my mouth. "Call an ambulance," I begged, my voice cracking under the weight of it. She laughed. Actually, laughed. "For what? A couple of bruises? God, you're so dramatic." Dad raised his hand again, but this time I scrambled back, hitting my shoulder against the dresser. Every breath I took burned, my vision blurred around the edges, black dots threatening to swallow me whole. Somewhere behind me, I heard Lucas stir, his small, frightened voice breaking through the chaos. "Stop!" he cried. "Stop hurting her!" Dad turned sharply, his glare slicing through the room. "Go back to bed, Lucas. This isn't your problem." But Lucas didn't move. He just stood there trembling, his tiny fists balled up at his sides, tears staining his cheeks. I tried to say something to tell him it was okay, to get him out, but the words wouldn't come. My chest felt like it was caving in. I heard Dad mutter something under his breath as he stormed out of the room, leaving me crumpled against the dresser. And then, silence, except for my breathing. Shallow, ragged, painful. I tilted sideways, trying to push myself up, but the moment I moved, white-hot pain exploded in my chest. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't even scream. Mom crouched down next to me, her face inches from mine. "You should have learned by now," she whispered coldly. "In this house, you either fall in line or you get crushed." Then she stood up, grabbed Lucas by the wrist, and dragged him out of the room. I don't know how long I lay there on the floor, staring at the ceiling while tears burned down my temples. Minutes? Hours? At some point, Lucas came back. His small hands shook as he knelt beside me, his wide brown eyes filled with terror. "Your phone," he whispered, pulling it from my nightstand and pressing it into my palm. Through the haze of pain, I unlocked it. My fingers trembled as I tapped 3 numbers. 911. 911, what's your emergency? A calm voice said on the other end. I opened my mouth to speak, but all that came out was a ragged, broken whisper. "My dad, my ribs." The woman on the line spoke softly and trying to keep me awake, asking questions I could barely answer. She promised help was coming, but each second felt like an eternity. "Somewhere downstairs," I heard Dad yelling again, unaware of the call I'd just made. I clutched Lucas's tiny hand, forcing myself to stay conscious. I didn't know exactly what was going to happen when the sirens came. But I knew one thing. This wasn't going to end the way they thought it would. Not this time. The sound of distant sirens grew louder, cutting through the silence of the house like a knife. I lay sprawled on the hardwood floor, clutching Lucas's hand, my breaths shallow and uneven. Every inhale felt like fire spreading through my chest. "Stay with me," Lucas whispered, his tiny voice cracking. "Please, don't leave me." I squeezed his hand weakly, but I couldn't find the words to answer. Downstairs, the arguing stopped. For a moment, the whole house went quiet, and then I heard Dad's boots thundering up the stairs. The door burst open, and his silhouette filled the frame. "What did you do?" he roared, his voice trembling with rage. "Did you call someone?" Before I could even respond, flashing blue and red lights washed across the window. Dad froze. Mom appeared behind him, gripping the doorframe, her wine glass still in her hand like she couldn't be bothered to put it down. Her expression shifted from irritation to alarm as voices shouted from outside. "Police! Open up!" Dad swore under his breath and stormed down the stairs. Mom followed quickly, her silk robe trailing behind her. Lucas crouched next to me, trembling as the pounding on the front door shook the walls. I wanted to tell him it would be okay, but I wasn't sure if I believed it myself. The door creaked open downstairs, and I heard muffled voices, sharp, firm, commanding. Then heavy boots stomped up the stairs. 2 officers appeared in the doorway, followed closely by a paramedic. "Ma'am, don't move," one officer said as the paramedic knelt beside me. "We've got you." I tried to sit up, but the paramedic's hand pressed gently against my shoulder. "Your ribs may be fractured," she said softly. "Just breathe. We'll take it slow." Lucas clung to my arm like a lifeline. Dad stood behind the officers, his face pale but seething, his jaw clenched so tightly a vein pulsed at his temple. "This is a misunderstanding," he said quickly. "Family argument. We don't need police here." The taller officer turned, his hand resting casually near his holster. "You hit her?" he asked flatly. Dad scoffed. "She's exaggerating. Kids these days, Her ribs are broken," the paramedic cut in sharply, her voice low but fierce. For the first time, I saw something flicker in Dad's eyes, uncertainty. Mom stepped forward, arms crossed, trying to sound calm but laced with venom. "She's always been dramatic," she said smoothly. "Trust me, she brings this on herself." The shorter officer turned to her slowly, his expression unreadable. "Ma'am, step aside." They strapped me carefully onto a stretcher, every movement making me bite my lip to hold back screams. As they carried me down the stairs, Dad followed, shouting behind us. "You don't get to call the cops on this family. Do you hear me?" But the taller officer blocked his path. "Sir, step back." The moment we reached the front door, Lucas tried to follow, but Mom yanked him back by the wrist. "He's staying here," she snapped. Lucas cried out, his little fingers stretching toward mine. "No, I want to go with her." The officer turned, crouched down to Lucas's level, and asked softly, "Do you feel safe here?" Lucas shook his head violently, tears streaming down his cheeks. The officer glanced at his partner, and I saw it in their eyes, a silent decision made right there. "Sir, ma'am," the officer said, his voice cold now, "your son is coming with us tonight." Mom's face drained of color. "You can't do that." "We can," the officer replied evenly. "And we are." In the ambulance, Lucas sat next to me, his small hand gripping mine like he was afraid I'd disappear if he let go. The paramedic worked quietly, setting up oxygen and checking my vitals. "You're lucky," she murmured, carefully wrapping my ribs. "Another few hits like that, and your lung could have collapsed." I swallowed hard, staring at the ceiling of the ambulance. Lucky. That word had never felt more foreign. At the hospital, they confirmed 3 broken ribs and internal bruising. They kept me overnight, Lucas curled up in the chair beside my bed, refusing to leave my side. I thought maybe, just maybe, someone from home would call. But no one did. Not Mom, not Dad, not even Harper, my older sister, who had always sided with them no matter what. By the second day, I stopped hoping. 2 days later, a social worker came to speak with me. "You have options," she said gently. "Given your injuries and the situation at home, we can help you and your brother find somewhere safe." I hesitated. "But it's our house." She leaned forward, her voice steady but soft. "A house isn't home if it's killing you." Something in me broke then, not like the ribs, but deeper, something I'd been holding together for years. I nodded slowly. Lucas slipped his hand into mine under the table. A week later, we didn't go back. We left everything behind: the photos, the furniture, even my old clothes. It felt like stepping off a cliff into darkness, but for the first time, I didn't feel scared. I felt free. At least I thought I was. Until one night, 2 months later, when I got a call that made my stomach drop. Dad's name flashed on the screen. I almost ignored it. Almost. But then something in me, curiosity, instinct, I don't know what made me answer. The first thing I heard was his voice. Panicked, shaky. They're coming for us," he said. "We need your help." And just like that, everything shifted again. Because I realized then that 911 call had set something in motion I hadn't even begun to understand. I gripped the phone tighter, Dad's voice cracking through the static. They're coming for us, Claire," he said, almost whispering. "The cops, investigators, everything's falling apart." I closed my eyes and let the silence stretch before I answered. "You mean, finally," I said quietly. "You have to help us," he begged. I could hear Mom shouting in the background, Harper crying, their world collapsing. "We're family." Family? That word burned more than my broken ribs ever had. I took a deep breath and steadied my voice. "You made sure I was nothing to you," I said softly. "Now I'm making sure I return the favor." I hung up. Within weeks, their lives unraveled completely. The hospital had filed an automatic report after my 911 call. Investigators dug deeper and uncovered Dad's hidden debts, Mom's fraudulent schemes, and years of abuse. The house I once feared became their cage. Freezing accounts, court summons, constant interrogations, they turned on each other, blaming, screaming, unraveling. Lucas and I never went back. 6 months later, I stood on the small balcony of our new apartment, watching Lucas chase fireflies in the parking lot below. The night air smelled like rain, and for the first time in my life, breathing didn't hurt. I thought about them sometimes, not with anger, not even with sadness. Just nothing. Because some people are storms, and you only find peace when you step out from under them. And for the first time, we were free. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.